Welcome to Off the Grid, a podcast for small business owners who want to leave social media without losing all their clients.
Let's go off the grid. Okay. Let's go off the grid. Okay. I know that you really want to put your phone away. Yeah. Let's go off the grid.
Hello and welcome to Off the Grid, a podcast about being a creative person who shares your work online and wants more people to hear about it without you having to use social media to find them, talk to them, connect with them, get them interested. I'm your host, Amelia Freebie, and on this show, as you just heard, we talk about leaving social media without losing all your clients or customers or listeners or friends. And today on the show, I am joined by a very special guest, someone I am so thrilled is here and who I am talking to all about the power of relationships and the relationships that change everything for our creative careers. She is someone who opened a door for me to have one of the most impactful experiences of my creative career so far, which was being a guest on the podcast We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and Amanda Doyle last December. Being on that show was something that I did not even dare to dream was possible for me. But one day last fall in October 2024, I got an email in my inbox from Lauren asking if I wanted to come on the pod and talk to Glennon about her experiences of social media and what it means to step back from social media as a public figure. And as I've said a few places, the fact that Lauren opened that door for me and advocated for me with the team and got me the invitation really has transformed my work this year. It brought so many new listeners to Off the Grid and so many new people into our community, the interweb, or our private podcast, the Clubhouse. And those new people have made this work such a bigger part of my financial landscape. And that allows me to make more episodes for you, to keep things going, to go deeper and broader and wider and just more excitedly into everything that we do here at Off the Grid. So this episode is all about relationships because Lauren is one of the people who I've built a relationship with, and that relationship has transformed my creative career, which is what we're talking about today. In this episode, we will map Lauren's creative career and the many relationships that helped craft her trajectory, from the random guy she knew in college who knew somebody who worked on The Ellen Show and landed her a first internship, to the people she met in the radio space that eventually brought her into podcasting. And as we map that journey, Lauren shares so openly about how she nurtures and unleashes her creativity and the ways that she has allowed her dreams to evolve while staying true to herself and finding her authentic voice. I'm really thrilled to be bringing you this episode this week. And let me tell you a little bit about Lauren. I will read you her amazing bio before we dive right into the conversation. Lauren LoGrasso was named by Podcast Magazine as one of the 22 unsung heroes of podcasting and by CEO Weekly as one of the top 10 inspiring women to follow. She's best known for her work as a singer-songwriter, podcast and TV host, executive producer, public speaker, and creative coach. As a podcast host and producer, she has helped create hit shows such as Glennon Doyle's We Can Do Hard Things, Brene Brown's Unlocking Us, Pulling the Thread with Elise Loehnen, and many more. Her music has been featured in People Magazine, Yahoo, and heard across iconic venues such as the Viper Room, House of Blues, and Hard Rock Cafe. At the heart of all of Lauren's work is a desire to use her own voice and experience to help other people find their voice and love, trust, and know themselves a little bit better. Thanks to Lauren for coming on the show today. And make sure you stick around to the end because Lauren shares a really beautiful inner child healing and self-love practice with us in this episode that definitely cracked open some big breakthroughs for me this spring. So I can't wait for you to hear this one. Let's dive in. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to Off the Grid.
Oh, Amelia, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
I am so thrilled to have you. It feels like I want to say like a full circle moment, but I feel like it's just another stop on this sort of like spiralic cycle that we'll be on together for years to come because we were introduced by another pod friend named Lauren.
Yes, love her.
And then I was on your show, and then they pitched to have you on my show. And then you were the person responsible for getting me invited on We Can Do Hard Things. And now here you are on Off the Grid. Like all these beautiful stops on our creative collaboration journey, I suppose.
It feels great. I'm happy to be here. And it does feel full circle, but I'm sure we'll make more circles.
Yeah. I am really excited to have you here today because I have so many questions about your career journey. You have such an exciting, expansive creative career as a producer behind the scenes and as a talented artist and speaker yourself. You're on stages and creating and making music and all of these things. And so I want to start with like the most general question in the planet, which is, could you tell us a bit about like your path into the work that you're doing today? I'm so curious, like, where did you begin? And are there any moments when you look back that you're like, oh yeah, that was a big choice or that was a huge pivot I didn't even realize at the time? Could you take us on a little like tour of Lauren's career?
Yes, I will absolutely do my best. It is a long and winding road. All rights reserved to the Beatles. But it really started when I was 3 and I saw my first musical and I turned to my mom and said, Mommy, I want to be up there doing that. And that's what began my journey into creativity and the arts. But then I went to college and I really was trying to be like practical. So I'm like, I'm going to get a broadcast journalism degree because I want to be a talk show host.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then the journalism degree just like, it was way more about writing than it was about just straight up broadcasting. So I ended up switching my major to communication, got a BFA in acting, a BA in communication, and was doing plays the whole time. I broadcasted on the radio. I thought I was just going to get a double major, but I realized at the end of my college career that I only needed 3 credits to get that BFA in acting and BA in communication. And so I was like, well, I don't know where I want to go, New York or LA. At that time, I just wanted to pursue acting. And I'm like, I might as well try to get an internship. So I applied for an internship on the Ellen Show and one on Sirius XM radio, but the Broadway station, because I'm like, this is a great synergy. And the Ellen Show, it was really wild because I went around college saying to everybody, I'm going to be an intern on the Ellen Show someday. I'm going to be an intern on the Ellen Show someday. And I didn't know anybody who worked there, but I don't know. It's just one of those moments. And this is something I like to call out because I think it's very important to say your dreams and your goals out loud because it allows not only the universe, but other people to co-create with you. And this other guy I knew who was from Indiana, wasn't like he was like super connected in Hollywood, happened to know this girl who was a PA there. I wasn't able to apply for an internship at that time. That was my junior year because they didn't do summer internships and I needed to stay and take classes. But by the time I was able to apply, which was the summer after my senior year going into like real life, she had been moved up to the internship coordinator, just happened to have been moved up. So it was literally perfect timing. And this is also a lesson in trusting your intuition that sometimes when you delay something, it actually has a deeper meaning. And it might be that your intuition is telling you to hold, not just that you're a procrastinator and should beat yourself up about it. But I applied, had like 3 interviews. I ended up getting the job. And within about a week, or it was 10 days of getting that call, I was out in LA, finding a place to live and starting my internship there. I did end up getting the Sirius XM one too, but it didn't pay at that time. So I went toward the Ellen Show because it paid like, I think whatever minimum wage was at the time. And so I did that. At the end of that 4-month journey, and by the way, like the whole time I was doing that internship, I was taking acting classes, I was taking improv classes, I was trying everything because I really wanted to be an actor. That was my main thing. At the end of that 4-month journey, I took an acting class with the casting director. He pulled me aside at the end and was like, listen, I think you're amazing. I have a role for you. I'm going to put you in this like supporting role in this movie that's coming up. So I did that right before Christmas hit. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, clearly my life is just going to go like flawlessly. And I'm going to like go home for Christmas, come back and be a star. I'm just going to, that's all. That's what's happening. That was not the case. I came back and it was Cricketsville, USA on my acting career. I ended up getting an agent, but she first of all, she canceled the first meeting with me because a goat, this is a literal quote, a goat broke the water main on her farm. And I was like, am I getting punked? It's is this for real? Is this real life? And then she left town without telling me. And I found out from another guy in my acting class who was repped with her. So needless to say, the acting career was not taking off as anticipated. And this is where something really beautiful happens. I had started learning guitar, and up until this point, I had never written a song. And I just started getting these songs coming into my head in between awake and asleep. Keep a notebook by your bed or your notes app on your phone or audio recording, because unbelievable ideas come to you in this state between sleep and awake. And finally, after that happened for months, I was like, okay, God, I get it. I'm going to write some music. So I started writing music. I ended up collaborating with a guy who went to college with me who lived out here. And it really started taking off. And I think it's because I didn't have this heavy attachment to it that I had to acting. I was really in a codependent relationship with acting. It was like, if I got a part, I was a good person. If I didn't get a part, I was a bad person. And my whole identity and sense of worth was wrapped up in this thing outside of me. Music was just joyful. And because I started going toward it with that joy, it started taking off. Within 9 months of writing my first song, I played House of Blues. Within a year, Viper Room and Hard Rock Cafe. And it was just this beautiful, expansive thing. And from that, I really learned the dreams you find on the way to your dreams can be even more powerful than your original intention. And there's a power to walking through open doors and through following what feels warm. And so as I'm going to these music gigs, I start listening to Sirius XM. And I fall in love with talk radio. And at this point, the only experience I had had in radio podcasting, I don't think I even knew what that was at that point, was this college experience where I called myself DJ Losif. Loved it. But I was just in between saying my piece between these songs. So talk radio, oh my gosh, it just expanded and exploded my world. And it really made me realize audio has the healing power to make people feel less alone. And I fell in love with this show called Cocktails with Patrick. And the guy was from Michigan. I was super homesick at the time. So I would literally listen to his radio show and just drive down the 405 and pretend like I was back home in Detroit. And it made me realize, how much when you do it right, you feel like either another host in the room with that person or a guest. You really feel like you're part of it, whatever they're doing. And so then I started saying, again, with speaking something out loud, I'm going to work at SiriusXM someday. I'm going to work at SiriusXM someday. I had no connections. I had no reason to think I would work there. But I just kept telling anyone who would listen that. And I ended up getting a gig at this place called AfterBuzz TV. And one day the founders came down and did a speech for us. And after I went to one of the founders, Kevin Undergaro, and I was like, I loved what you said. I love being a host at AfterBuzz TV. This is a part-time gig. And I love radio. I'm obsessed with radio. And he looked at me, he's like, I might have an opportunity for you. He screamed his email at me from across the room as he was leaving. And he's like, email me. So I wrote him. And long story short, one night he was with his wife, Maria Menounos, and the woman who at the time was the VP of female content at SiriusXM. And he's like, Lauren, I was in the middle of making pasta. And he's like, Lauren, get over here right away. I left the half-cooked pasta on the stove. And I went over there. And it turns out this woman was the woman who made Cocktails with Patrick. She not only made that show, she made all the shows I love, Wake Up with Taylor, the Dr. Jen show, all the shows that made me obsessed with radio, realize the healing power of audio, and want to get into it. And I was like, oh my God, you're my radio Jesus. I literally said that to her. And after that meeting, I went home and I wrote up over 100 ideas for what could be Maria's radio show, because she was in talks with them at that time to do a radio show. And they ended up making me a position on that show. So it wasn't it didn't exist. It was the first time in LA that someone had done something out of true kindness and seeing my potential. And so I got to be on air with Maria and like doing engineering and associate producing. Eventually, I was moved up to the producer level. And then from there, that woman who hired me, she moved over to a podcasting company. And she called me about like 6 months into her work there and was like, listen, Lauren, do you want to get into podcasting? Are you looking for a change? And I was like, yes, I am. Because I saw the direction everything was going in. And when I went over to that company, I negotiated for myself to do my own podcast because, again, my goal was always to be a host. That was always my dream from the time I was little. And so that's how I find myself where I am now.
Oh, thank you so much, for being a wonderful storyteller. I just enjoyed listening to you tell all of those steps of the journey, and also for sharing the lessons with us. I never get tired of hearing how people like said yes to things at various steps on the way to what they're doing now, and how sometimes we don't even realize we're saying yes to something and it can become such a big part of our work. And I feel similarly in my own career. I never intended to be a podcaster. I didn't know what podcasts were when I ended up even making my first one. Yeah, no one did. So I feel like it's so interesting to hear like both the intention that you brought to your career path and also the sort of like right place, right time, right yes that you said at many steps along the way. And I'm really curious how you think of your career right now in terms of the work you do behind the scenes as a producer and the dreams you've always had to be like a host and a musician and on stage. Like, how are you holding that today? Like, how do you see the relationship between behind the scenes and on stage, or these different roles that you take on in your work?
I try to approach them all with the same heart. So when I'm producing someone, I think what makes me a good producer, we were talking about this before, like, I think I'm actually a coach that just happens to produce. I try to give people what I would want or would have wanted in certain situations. And I listen to shows, whether I'm like doing a content edit or producing an episode, with that same thought process of like the way I would produce my show. So I don't think about the work as any different. It's definitely different, like to hear it through someone else's voice, but it's also cool. And I almost look at like the producing as like, it's straight up learning because I have my ideas, but ultimately somebody's going to take them and like use them the way that they want to and the way that it makes sense through their lens of the world. And also the fact that I've like gotten to sit and just listen to like and talk to, by the way, like I spent 30 minutes with Eckhart Tolle. Like that's so that's so cool and weird. And also we talked about grocery stores in Santa Barbara. So it's been cool for me to see that even the most amazing people are people and that we are all special and we are all normal. And also right now, like I am stepping forward a little bit more as I've gone toward my speaking career. Like I've spent the past decade really pouring myself into other people and what they do. And I'm still doing that. And I want that to be a big part. But I think in those years, I kind of pushed down who I was and what I wanted to do. And so now I'm trying to put that at least like at an equal level. Like, okay, I love this. I love seeing other people bring their dreams to light. I love seeing people like use their authentic voices. And if I'm really going to be that advocate for people and be that, person who helps them do that, the best way to start is by doing it with myself. So I think just giving myself at least the same amount of love and sight that I give other people has been like kind of how I've made it all work at this moment.
I loved what you said toward the beginning around like producing being such a learning experience, because I definitely feel like I have fast tracked my own podcast growth because I'm producing and editing so many other amazing shows. Like, there's no way to learn better how to kind of craft a bit for your show or build a personality in or have a cute sign off than like listening to hundreds or thousands of people do that, or like hours of people doing that. It is a great way, I think, to just like have that really practical learning that has helped me become a much better podcaster by producing other people's work. And then also, it's reminding me of this sort of cycle I've seen in my own career and in many people I've talked to of kind of starting by being in love with like creating your own thing, doing your own thing, and then stepping into sort of being more of a service provider, being behind the scenes for other people who have more skills or more expertise or more time on the seat than you do, and then kind of learning through that and then coming back into your own. And I really do see it all as cyclical. I love how you're pointing to like it's not either or. It can always be both and you're doing both simultaneously with care and with love.
Yeah. And to your point, one hand washes the other. Like, I am a much better producer because I'm a host, because I know, oh my gosh, if I said something like that, I would feel vulnerable. Let me see if I can cut that or get them to retake that line. It's vulnerable in a bad way, not in like the juicy, beautiful way that people talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
But, I think like you said, being a producer makes you a better host. Like, you're never going to get worse at your job because you know another angle of your job. So I would just say that because a lot of people, there's like an old school mentality that like, oh my God, a producer should never be a host. And I really disagree with that. Like any producers I mentor, I highly encourage to become hosts. If someone has a problem with that, that's their issue, but it's only going to make you better at your job, understand the medium more supportive to the hosts you work with. So I highly recommend for anyone who is a producer or a potential producer, try hosting. And I 100% recommend for any hosts, you should try producing.
Yes, absolutely. I love that what you said about like learning another facet of your job or your role is never going to make you worse at your role. It's only going to make you better. I couldn't agree more. And I also think for folks listening who are creatives themselves and small business owners, there's just so much, I think, value in that both and of being a creator and some type of service provider or working behind the scenes for someone else simultaneously. Because going back to your journey too, like it helps take the pressure off of everything if you have like multiple lanes and multiple perspectives on something in the mix, right? Like if you're all in on trying to grow your podcast from scratch, you might put a lot of pressure on it and it may not be able to like have the audience growth or the lift off that you want. But if you can kind of balance a few things, I've just found that that also works so much better for me to know when it can just be the joy or when it can take a little more and I can start to make money or expect something from it. It's all kind of a dance, I think.
100%. I always say should have many eggs in your creative basket. Not only because this economy is so wacky wild right now, and so it's good to have lots of different income streams if you can, but also because your soul needs it. Like you never want to be in the situation I was in with acting, where it's become so outsized in your life that it's the only thing you can see. And if it's thriving, you're okay. And if it's not, you're not. So I think when you have these multiple things, it puts some of that pressure across everything, but also it encourages you to come back into yourself because you realize you are the vessel for all these things. They are not the vessel that you're pulling from. It's you that is bringing them out and sharing them out into the world. And I think when it's just one thing, it's way too much pressure from every angle.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so speaking of the many things, I mean, you are a producer, you're a podcast host yourself, you're a singer, you're a speaker. You have a lot of projects, which like, welcome. We love all the projects land here. Like, I love it. But speaking of that, like being the vessel, I mean, I'm talking to a lot of people this year who, myself included, who kind of feel like the vessel's running a little dry, like kind of struggling to feel creative, nurture that creativity, find it within ourselves to keep creating in quote unquote these times. So, how do you nurture your creativity across so many projects? And like, what does it mean to you? I mean, all your messaging is around unleashing your creativity. So, how do you nurture it? And then, what does it really mean to unleash our creativity?
Yeah. What it means to me to unleash your creativity is not being the one that says no to you. So you don't shut the door on yourself. That's what's top of mind right now. And then how do you nurture it? I think, especially in quote unquote these times, the only thing keeping me alive right now is having a morning practice. And I know it's like, oh, so annoying. Like when I would hear people say that before I had one, I was like, oh, get a life. But I don't know how people are out there just white knuckling life right now. It's really challenging. And so to put something between you and the day and what everybody else wants from you is going to help you hear your own voice throughout the day. So my current one, when I have time, I don't always do every step, but this is my immaculate morning collection. I start out with a meditation, then I pray, then I listen to affirmations, and then I journal. And when I do that, my day has a little bit more levity to it, a little bit more space. I'm able to hear my own thoughts, and I'm able to come back to myself and go inside of myself when the world gives me feedback that is upsetting, uncomfortable, devastating. So that would be my first recommendation. And I mean, there's like practical things too. I think not multitasking it's difficult for me because when you do have so many things to do, you want to. But for me, setting aside dedicated time for each thing I'm doing, and even knowing like if you can't do everything every day, what day am I going to think about my podcast? Like that was a game changer to me. Like the first few years I did my podcast, I was just doing it whenever I had spare time. Now I have dedicated work hours for my personal podcast, which makes it so much easier to get accomplished every week because I'm not juggling both the work and the mental load of figuring out when the work is going to happen. I have this very woo-woo technique that I use. Basically, you write down everything you do and then you find a percentage and you just do it by like you write down everything you do and then you ask like yourself, your higher power, whatever you feel, like how much of my time should I be spending on that? And you write down all the percentages that come out and then you figure out what your work hours are and then just divvy it up that way. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But that's what I would say about like doing everything and like, unleashing your creativity in this time, especially for multi-passionates. And then the other thing I say on my podcast is in order to unleash you, I believe you need to love, trust, and know yourself enough to believe you have like the right to even claim your creativity and go after it and pursue your dreams. So I think that goes back to not being the one that says no to you. There's going to be plenty of people who are going to tell you no along the way. But that doesn't have any bearing on how good you are or how much you deserve to be creative. And also taking your worth out of your work. I know it's so hard. It's something I struggle with every single day, but not the work, but the outcome of the work. That will kill you along the way. And so the more you can do it for the inner satisfaction and have goals, but like realize the goals just take you on the journey, the actual creativity is in putting it out into the world in the first place. I think that really helps too.
Yeah, I really appreciate so many of the things you shared there, like the ways that you think about setting up your days, how you start with your morning routine, how you look at your week and set the different times for things. And then, yeah, this piece on unleashing, not being the person that says no to you is really hitting home for me right now. I think I've been unearthing a lot of the stories I've told myself about what's possible and sitting in both the like delusional ideas I want to have and claim for myself and what my career could be. And also like the very practical side of me that's like, okay. And also like, I like to set expectations. I like to be clear, like, what do I think is possible and how can I kind of orient around that? But do that without limiting myself and do that without not trusting or believing in myself.
Mm. How are you doing that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, how am I doing this? So I think, this even comes up in my like journey of leaving social media, the sort of way that I went all in on like trying to grow my following. And it just didn't happen really. Like I spent so much time, money, energy to get from like 1,000 followers to 3,000 followers. I didn't even quite make it to 3,000. And I was hoping I would have hit 10,000 or more in that time, right? And I was like trying to kind of put all of my aligned energy and creative effort and work into that goal that I didn't reach. And so I'm reflecting as I'm hearing you talk on a sort of like, I think it felt a bit like a cosmic no. It was like the universe kind of being like, being all in on Instagram is not what you need to do with all of this creative energy. And then, of course, like that led to me leaving social media, which led to me starting this podcast, which has been by far the most successful creative endeavor I have had so far. But even now, I realize there are ways where I kind of like, when I think about like, how big do I want the show to be? What are the ultimate goals? I tell myself stories like, oh, well, I could never be big enough to sell the show to a network, or like I could never be big enough to do X, Y, and Z. And I can see the ways that sometimes I'm just trying to like, I don't know, I'm starting to ask myself, like, am I just shutting myself down when I tell stories like that? Or am I identifying something I really don't want and it's okay to just release it?
I think asking yourself those questions is something that most of us never do. We also, like, I get stuck in why a lot. Like, why is this happening to me? What is the reason? Like when I'm in my victim mode, but I never try to actually answer that. I just stay in why instead of like looking for what is the answer to that. Like, and I think that that's what's profound about your journey is you maybe were in a state of why, like, why can't I grow more? And then you actually answered it for yourself. So I think that is a great thing to remember for myself and for anyone listening. Try to occasionally answer the repetitive questions you ask yourself. Just occasionally.
Oh my gosh, that's really nice, like gentle, loving call-in for all of us. Yeah, that's sort of because I know that feeling. It's like that creative existential why of like, why not me? Why am I not the one who got the 100,000 followers or booked the gig or ended up on that podcast as a guest? Like, I know that feeling, but I think it is really helpful, as you're saying, like, don't just stop with that feeling. Like, if it keeps arriving, try to answer it. And yeah, for me on social media, I had a clear answer. Like, the type of work I want to do is in direct conflict with what this platform values. And so, of course, it's not going to grow and blossom here. Like, I need to be finding other places and creating other spaces for myself. And that's been so freeing for me, right? Just like kind of change my perspective. And I think also asking this question, just being aware of like, what are the places you're saying no to yourself? What are the places where maybe you, like me, are being like, well, that's an unreasonable expectation. So I'm not going to think that I want that, or I'm going to like take it back 10 steps. I mean, it's good to know that the things you may really want are like 10 years down the road instead of 10 minutes down the road for you. But not saying no to yourself in that process is what I'm taking away from your work on unleashing your creativity.
And also, you can survive it. I think maybe sometimes like the reason why we don't go after our wildest dreams is because we're so afraid to be disappointed. Like I've realized that in my life. So my acting career, I thought I failed back then. But I didn't fail. Like I actually grew a significant amount in that year. I booked my first gig. I joined SAG-AFTRA. Like I did all these things. I didn't fail. I rebranded disappointment as failure. I had such little tolerance for disappointment that when it didn't go the way I thought it should go, I collapsed. And taking a break from that was the absolute right thing. But I have no doubt in my mind, if I went full force with acting today, I would kill it because I don't have any attachment to it in that way. So I think there's a lot of things going on when we kind of hold ourselves back from even wanting. But that's one thing to think about. Like, you don't need to protect yourself. Like, know that you can survive this. If you go through something and it doesn't go the way you want it to, you are worthy. The inside, like who we are inside, is the real gift. And what we do out there is just like gravy.
Hello, my lovely listener. Amelia here, interrupting this amazing conversation because if you're enjoying this episode, the one you're listening to right now, I think you would really love the Off the Grid Clubhouse. The Clubhouse is a paid podcast, newsletter, and asynchronous community space for friends and fans of Off the Grid, hosted on Substack. It's where I share my monthly biz forecasts, bonus episodes about my hot takes, personal feelings, deepest, darkest, brightest, lightest ideas about online business, and more. I also send out a monthly link roundup called The Click Through, where I gather everything that I have been reading, watching, and intrigued by with regards to internet culture, social media happenings, and online business at large. That's also where I have been chronicling the many announcements I see lately of people taking breaks from social media or exiting platforms entirely. And all of the posts in the Clubhouse have community comment threads where you can ask me questions, share your experiences, and chat with other Off the Grid listeners. It only costs $5 per month or $50 per year to join the fun, and I truly hope that you will head to the show notes and check it out. I look forward to seeing you on Substack. But for now, let's dive back into this conversation. I want to talk to you about the voice because I love how all of your work focuses on the voice, whether it be the voice singing or podcasting or public speaking, like the literal voice. And then, of course, metaphorically, the creative voice and how it comes forward in any form. I was recently listening back to the first podcast episode I ever published, which was for a community radio station I was working with. And this was almost 9 years ago now. And what struck me the most listening to it is how different I sound. My voice is so different 9 years ago than it is now. Like back then, I was like talking in the back of my throat the whole time, and like my intonation was really weird because I couldn't project. I was not confident. I was not comfortable, and I can hear it so clearly. But I know that. And then I look at where I am now and I'm like, oh, I love being on mic. I love talking. I feel so projected and clear and confident. But I have no clue how this happened for me. Like, I have no method. I have nothing to offer to people who are like, how did you transform yourself as a podcaster? I'm like, I don't know. I just kept doing it. Since you are a creative coach, you're a producer, you are a vocalist, how do you help people connect with their authentic voice? Like, what is an authentic voice? And what advice do you have for people who feel like they're struggling to find it?
I do think every human being should have a podcast because it's one of the most underrated self-healing tools. Because any person, when you go back and listen to your initial episodes, you're like, aw, who was she? She was so young. She was
Yes.
trying so hard. For me, I was like, I was trying to be this broadcaster that I thought I should be. And to hear the way my voice has shifted from back then to now, it's like, wow, you can really hear the growth journey, not just in my voice, but in me as a person and how much more of myself I've become through the unraveling that happens when you just do a weekly podcast for years on end. So I do really recommend that. Or if you're not going to do a podcast, just start like recording your voice and listening back to it. Because the thing about podcasts is you can't lie. Like you can, but people can hear it when you're putting something on or putting on airs. And you will hear it too. And you'll be like, that didn't really sound like me. So I think recording yourself, whether you make it a podcast or not, has a profound power in it. Don't run away from your voice. Like, let yourself sit through the discomfort of feeling like, oh, that didn't sound like me. That's not how I want to sound. Not because you don't like your voice, but because you could tell there was some part of you that was not telling the truth about who you are. So that's one little very tactical, practical thing. The other thing I'd say is we came into this world screaming. So it's not that we don't have a voice, it's that we have to remember it. You know, it's nothing you have to create, it's just something you have to remember. So this is very similar to a self-love practice I have, but I have a very distinct memory in my younger years in high school where my voice was squished. And I think most people probably have something like this, whether it was like a metaphorical voice squishing, or for me, it was literally, I was in choir class. We had a very abusive choir teacher. She ended up getting fired years later, but she made us all stand up and like sing on the spot and sing our part. And I was an alto. I had just learned the harmony part, like, a few minutes before. And I stood up and did it. And on the fourth note, she's like, sit down, because I guess I got off on, it was like not the right note. And that was a pivotal moment. We have these pivotal moments where good things happen, right? But there are also these pivotal, what I call creative heartbreak moments, where the world shifts for us and we get a little smaller and we step back and we lose a little piece of ourselves, a little piece of the joy that was attached to whatever that creative or life thing we were doing. And so what I really recommend in those moments is doing a visualization where you, as your adult self now, or maybe you were an adult when this thing happened too, but like your older self now goes back and stands up for you to that person, to what I would call a creative monster, and also tells you what was really going on and encourages that younger version of you to know that it wasn't about them. It doesn't mean that their voice is not worthwhile. and that you are fighting for them and you want to share their voice in this current timeline. And then the other thing I would recommend is a visualization where you go to a younger version of yourself that was fully expressed. Like, I think of myself as like a little 3-year-old telling my mom, I want to be on that stage. I want to be up there doing that. And just having pure joy and being able to speak what I want and go up there and sing and say my little lines, my little 3-year-old lines. But I like to think of them and go to them and see if you can pull that joy from them into this current timeline and hold that joy. And anytime you feel small or less than, try to remember what it felt like when you first loved it, when you first knew what your voice sounded like, and bring that part of yourself through. Borrow from the younger self until you feel strong enough to do it in your full adult body. So those are the things I would recommend.
Those are both such beautiful practices. I feel like being the sort of creative protector that we needed in the past is a beautiful way to heal those wounds from our creativity monsters, heartbreaks. And as soon as you talked about like reconnecting with the younger version of ourselves who was fully expressed, I mean, so many images came to mind for me of myself and also for my partner, JJ. Like when I was a kid, I think I've told this story on the podcast before, maybe not though. I don't remember this, but what my family always tells me is that when I was like 3 or 4, I would walk around the house and gather all the adults and take everyone into the living room. And I would sit down on the couch and I would say, let's chat. And then I would facilitate a chat for us, which feels so like so fully expressed, so clearly like I just wanted to talk and be talking, which makes perfect sense with what I do now. And I was also thinking when JJ and I started dating, their parents shared with me this recording of JJ as a 3-year-old doing a like radio DJ set of Rolling Stones songs. And it's so cute because their dad and them are both like obsessed with the Rolling Stones. And from a very young age, like JJ loved the Rolling Stones. And so like had a little tape recorder and would like play a song and then like talk about the song as like a 3-year-old. And it's so sweet. And I think I share this to say, like, me being able to witness that version of them was such a like unlocking moment for me as well. So there's something for me in like the ways that through these visualizations we can witness ourselves at these younger ages, but also maybe there are opportunities for us to like witness our beloveds in those ages and to kind of, sometimes when I can't find confidence within myself, I can like bring along a very like trusted and loving person in my life to remind me of that. Like if I can't remember it for myself, is there someone around me who can remember it with and for me?
Absolutely. I love that. And that's why the inner child work is so powerful too, because a lot of times we speak very badly to ourselves. But would you ever speak to the 3-year-old version of you that way? Would you ever say your voice doesn't matter? Would you ever say to that precious, sweet, innocent angel, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Don't go after your dreams? You would never do that. That's why it's important to like pull the affection you have for that little one into this current timeline and treat yourself with the same grace, care, and love.
Okay, all of this talking about these visualizations and how good they feel to do is kind of making me wish we could do one. Would you like to guide us in a visualization for our inner child or self-love or something like that?
Yes, it would be my great honor. So, sweet listener, if you can, close your eyes, and Amelia, feel free to as well.
Oh yeah, I'm going to take part in this. Don't worry.
Great. And so what I want you to do is picture a younger version of yourself that you feel great affection for. What age are they? What are they wearing? Think about what they're doing. And now I want you to feel in your body how you feel toward them. The love and kindness and warmth and delight you might feel toward them. Feel it as much as you can. Really just see how beautiful and precious and innocent they are, and how deeply worthy of love and their dreams they are. See the actual love you feel. Let it come out of your body. And maybe it's a bright pink cloud. Maybe it's a big white light that just envelops everything. Maybe it's an iridescent bubble. But see the physical love you feel for them out in front of you, and send it to them. Let them know. And once you've sent it to them, I want you to see it again and remember that you are every age you've ever been. So that love you feel for the little one is also love you feel for yourself right now. And I want you to see yourself actually pulling that energy into this current timeline, bringing it into your heart, your head, your stomach, your legs, your full body, and letting it envelop every part of you and wash through you. From head to toe, you're enveloped by this love, and you're always connected to it. It is a part of you. It is your foundation. Now, pick up the little one, if they're still standing there, and hug them. If you can. If they're too old, you can just hold their hand. And picture them melding into your body and becoming one with you. Now, every time you talk to yourself, you're talking to them. I love myself. I trust myself. I believe in myself. I am worthy. And so it is. Take a deep breath in and out. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room.
That was so nice.
Yay!
I feel like I pretty easily, because we had just talked about my 3-year-old self, she was present, but then I was surprised because my 23-year-old self also showed up. And I mean, me 10 years ago, I'll be honest, I was so cool and I thought like I didn't belong anywhere and nobody cared about me. That's how it feels. Like when I look back, I'm like, I had this really cute 1-bedroom apartment I lived in alone in Logan Square in Chicago. I like made zines and did poetry readings and like had friends that worked at all of the cute bars in that part of the city. And like I was just having a great time, but I also couldn't experience that. I felt really alone and really unsure and really insecure. And so it's really nice to revisit her now, looking back and being like, you're amazing.
It is. Well, that's how this idea came to me because I was going through books. You know, it's really hard to get rid of books when you're decluttering because it's like that's someone's work. And especially for caring about people and their work the way we do, it's like torture. And when I give them away, I don't throw them away, just so you know. But I found all these old journals and I was like, I can't throw these away. This has like a precious part of me in it. And like, I would never do that to my younger self. But then I realized like, oh, I was throwing my current self away in so many ways. And if I wouldn't throw my younger self away, why am I doing that to myself now? But to your point, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was still feeling the way I do now about myself. So why not just not wait 5 to 10 years to feel affection toward myself when I know it's going to happen anyway? So maybe I could pull it into this timeline so that I can start feeling that love I feel for my younger self now.
Yeah. I love that so much. And is reminding me that like one of the things I really unlocked a few years after that, I really struggled to love myself or to feel love for myself. But the unlock for me was that I just started acting like I did. I just started doing nice things for myself. I just started taking better care of myself, on my own terms. And acting as if I loved myself did eventually transform into loving myself, which was a really big, I think, step in this process for me, like personally and creatively.
That is such a good tip. Treat yourself the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, it's like so simple and almost even like I want to roll my own eyes at my own self, but
No, it's so good. Of course we're going to react better to ourselves when we treat ourselves well and with kindness and care.
yeah, and it's just those foundational pieces that I am just really feeling into in our whole conversation. It's around like, of course, like why would I think that I could just talk shit to myself all day and then make amazing art at the end of it? Like that doesn't compute. Like all these practices layer. It's like the inner child work, the self-love work, the self-tending work. It all like layers into our creative practice. It's all part of the same. I mean, I think like on a more spiritual level, just like being who we are and allowing ourselves to be and become who we are. It's all interconnected.
It is. I see spirituality and creativity as basically the same thing. I just think it's everyone's birthright, and some people have been taught or had their heart broken in such a way that's made them either leave it behind or convince them that they're not creative. But creativity is your birthright as a human being, and reclaiming it is reclaiming your humanity.
Absolutely. Well, Lauren, thank you so much. I feel like this conversation has brought me a lot of life. It's made me feel very creative and like I want to go create a whole lot of things after this. But I'm so curious before we wrap up, what are you working on right now? What is next in your creative universe?
Well, continuing to do the amazing podcasts I work on, my podcast, Unleash Your Inner Creative. Also, I am public speaking. I actually just signed with a manager for speaking. I'm super excited about it, Inkwell Management, and I'm going to be getting out there more and incorporating music into my speaking, which is really exciting. I have 2 singles I'm working on putting out. And something I'm super excited about and jazzed about is I'm doing a lot more creative coaching. So if anybody is looking for support and finding their inner voice, unleashing their creativity, bringing their dreams or project to light, I would be honored to be your guide and would love to help you with that. But yeah, just trying to continue to use my voice and help other people find theirs is really the thesis statement.
It's such a beautiful practice. And I will just shout out that your podcast is fantastic. I highly recommend people go listen to it. Also, any and all of the shows you produce are amazing and a masterclass in podcasting, just listening to them. So I also recommend those, and I'll link everything in the show notes, including your coaching work. So thank you so much, Lauren. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. I hope that you're feeling creatively unleashed like I am after this conversation. And until next time, we will see you off the grid. Thanks for listening to Off the Grid. Don't forget to grab your free Leaving Social Media toolkit at offthegrid.fun/toolkit. This podcast is a Softer Sounds production. Our music is by Melissa Caitlin Carter of Making Audio Magic, and our logo is by Natelier Studio. I'm your host, Amelia Ruby, and until next time, I'll see you off the grid and on the interweb.
Let's